Recording progress.
Welcome back to the channel and another podcast. Paul, Peterhead, Scotland. Very pleased to be here. Recovered addict. I've been joined today by Martin.
Hi everyone, Martin. I am calling in from France, a grateful recovering addict.
Brilliant. Appreciate you being here, Martin. Thanks for your service, coming along today to share your story of experience, strength and hope and freedom. I just want to let everyone know there's various resources available. If you're listening to this looking for sponsorship, looking for meetings, feel free to put your first name and your number wherever you see this post, and we will get back to you. There's very healthy WhatsApp groups we can add you to with lots of resources posted daily about recovery. We have current male and female sponsorship lists whereby you can get yourself a sponsor the same day as you're listening to this. All you need to do, as I say, is put your number and we will get back to you as soon as we see the comment, which is usually the same day. And there are lots of podcasts on this channel. There's about 2.5 dozen now, or 2 dozen plus personal stories like this one. There's also podcasts on each of the steps. There's podcasts on the traditions, the spiritual malady, the ABCs of addiction, and various other topics. So feel free to avail yourself of those. Bear in mind, you can share, like, subscribe, pause, rewind, fast forward, and pause and come back to this broadcast if you so wish. A little bit later on during the broadcast, there'll be information on the screen about meetings that you can attend online and face-to-face, where you can hear a message of hope and freedom and courage. So I am a recovered addict. You know, sobriety is a gift. It's a wonderful experience, folks. So do feel free to avail yourself of all the different resources that are available. So today, Martin has come along from France to share his story of hope and freedom. So without further ado, I'll just hand the floor over to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Paul. Well, first of all, before starting, I am just taking the time to thank you, Paul, for everything that you do for the fellowship. I'm grateful for CA. I'm grateful for recovery. I'm grateful for sobriety. And by the grace of God, I just walked into my 3rd year, you know, without putting a mind-altering substance into my body. And yeah, by the grace of God, I am forever grateful for that. Yeah, so how I'm going to try to do it today is I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. The first one would be you know, a bit of my upbringing, upcoming, where I come from, how I got into you know, addiction. Then I'll move on into how you know, life was in active addiction, and then the most important part will be you know, the day I found CA and recovery, and yeah, moving forward. And to finish off, it will be my life today, you know, life in recovery. So yeah, my name is Martin. I live actually at the moment of time in France, in Paris, and I've been here since more than 25 years. I was born and raised in a family of 4 in Luxembourg. My mother's English and my father is from Luxembourg. And you know, my childhood was pretty good. I don't have many bad memories. My parents were together. You know, I've got 2 brothers and 1 sister. And yeah, our upbringing was pretty calm, and there was not much trauma going on. You know, at the early stages of my life. But that changed. You know, I can still remember the first time that I saw my parents have a fight verbally, because my mother had too much to drink, and my father was very, very absent. He was working all the time. And so, yeah, from that moment on, I was confronted to alcohol. I'd not say on a daily basis, but a couple of times per week. My mum would drink, and I now understand that she wasn't happy, and that was her solution and her way of coping, living far from her family, raising four children, I'd say by her own, isolated, and that was her solution. There was a lot of love present. My grandmother was a very, very important figure for me, and all my siblings growing up. We would spend every weekend there, and we would play football, we would ride with the bike, we'd spend time together, and it was really nice. I think one of the turning points, and that's when I first, that's the first time I had my first drink, is when my parents, when my mother filed for a divorce. Yeah, so she met someone else, and she asked my dad for divorce. My dad then was looking to move to France, and because there was four of us, my mother would take two, and my father would take two. My father would take two, the oldest one, which was my older brother and myself, and my mother would take the younger ones. And moving forward, I'm 11, coming up to 12 years of age, moving to Paris with my father and my brother, away from my mother, which I think was one of the most hurtful and painful experiences that I had to encounter at that early age. And yeah, what basically happened after that is I came across alcohol, had my first drink, and from the moment liquor came into my system, I loved it, because it helped me manage the pain, the pain of abandonment of my mother, the pain of not being with my siblings, the pain of not feeling my feelings. And at the age 12 or 13, I was not aware of the consequences that alcohol and later on drugs would have on my life. So my teenage years were, I would go to school, I would get my diplomas, I would be an active member of a football team, but weekends would be mainly, the main activity on weekends would be drinking. Would be drinking on a Friday evening, going out to clubs, drinking to oblivion, coming back on a Saturday, being hungover all day, going out again on a Saturday evening, and coming back on the Sunday morning, playing football, and doing that, in a spiral of, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. So I came around the wrong crowd. I came around, acquaintances that were only interested in drinking. Back in the days, I thought that they were my friends, but now, as I am in recovery, I can only see that these people had the same problem as myself. So moving forward, alcohol had a massive part in my life. You know, I couldn't go to a social gathering without having a drink. I didn't feel comfortable around other people. And by this time, you know, I couldn't get into a, you know, a stable relationship with someone. But my solution was always to go back to the drink. You know, when things were going good, I would drink. When things would be going wrong, I would drink. You know, and it just went on for years and years and years and years. And I never really thought that it was a problem, because you know, I was going to school, I was getting my degrees, I was having, I'd say, a social, sort of a social life. I would not get into much trouble. I would be employable. You know, I would be able to get, you know, several jobs. So I never really thought that it was a problem. And, you know, moving fast forward, I did my first geographical at the age of 24, where I felt so miserable in the position I was and in the lifestyle and the environment that I was, that I quit everything and I moved to Australia, thinking that, you know, my problems will disappear. I will feel better next to the beach. I will feel better in the sun. And, you know, that my depression and my anxiety would vanish. But that was okay for like 2 months when I was over there. I quickly got a job, bought myself a car, and, you know, traveled through Australia. It was amazing. Drinking was always present every second evening, you know, going out, getting off our heads, and just living, you know, day to day. By the time I'm 8 months into Australia, you know, depression severely hits me. And, you know, by this time, I need to get back. I need to get back to a safe place. So now I book a flight back to Paris. And from that day on, it just went down and down and down, because I went back into working nights. My days off were mainly sleeping, eating crap, and drinking in the evenings. And this would go on for 2 years. My depression would get worse and worse and worse. I would take on weight and weight and weight. I would feel more and more miserable, until I meet someone in a club one evening, and, you know, we get to know each other, we get to hang out, and that's the first time I got introduced to cocaine. So this woman, you know, presented a plate with a line, and she said, "Try it, you'll like it." And I tried it as an addict. I tried it. I said, "Okay, let's go, let's have one." And from that day, basically, you know, mixing alcohol and cocaine, cocaine enabled me to drink more, to be, you know, to look normal, to handle situations better. And it just went down from there. You know, my weekends and the money that I earned would be to, you know, get the drink, get the gear, find a spot where I can do it without anybody around me knowing it, isolating me by myself, hiding everything from the people close to me, family members and friends. But from the outside, nobody could see it, because, you know, I was working, I was active, but things just got worse. Depression got worse. And, you know, this went on for a couple of years. I somehow stayed out of trouble. And yeah, 3 years ago, that's when a tragic event happened. I overdosed on alcohol. I ended up in hospital by myself at 4 o'clock in the morning, cables all over me, and by myself in a room. It was dark, and that was my lowest point, because if that evening my higher power wasn't there, I would have been dead today. And that's my gratitude goes out to that, first of all, because if the ambulance wouldn't have came on time, I would have choked on my vomit and I would have been dead by today. Lying on that bed by myself, something had to change. And that's when I decided that I needed help. That I needed help with my addiction, and that, my addiction with alcohol and cocaine is taking over, and it's becoming a huge problem. And once I got out of hospital, I looked up on the internet, and I heard of the concept of AA, and I was open to go to a meeting, a physical meeting back then. And I sat down, I listened, and I didn't understand what was going on. There was these people sitting there, and one of them was sharing back, and everybody was happy that I was there. And I even shared back that first meeting. But I came out of that meeting, and I felt that now I was looking for, I was looking for a solution to my problem. So that evening I came back, I went back onto the internet, and I found CA, and I found a meeting. I connected to a meeting online. That was my first one, and I felt right at home. That same evening, I got approached by my sponsor, whom I thank from the bottom of my heart today, because without his guidance, I wouldn't be here today, And now I'm just going to move on straight away into the solution, into recovery, into what has saved me and what has kept me clean and sober. So he suggested that I come to 90 meetings in 90 days. He suggested that I share back at the meetings as a newcomer. He suggested that we work the steps. He suggested that I be coachable. He suggested that I leave my ego aside. He suggested that I listened. And, I listened. And we've worked the 12 steps. I wouldn't say thoroughly, but I've worked them at my pace. And step one was, for me, one of the most important ones, because I had to admit that I was powerless over my addiction, and that my life had to become unmanageable. Until I didn't accept that I was powerless over my addiction, recovery was not possible. And step number two is I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity, because my self-will wouldn't help. I could go eventually a week without drinking or drugging, but the addiction and the need and the want to drink and use would come back. And I'm forever grateful today that I can feel that there was someone guiding me, and it's my higher power. Step number three is that I had to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. The concept of God, when I came into these rooms, was pretty difficult to grasp. the only religious background that I can remember is my grandmother, who, who went to church and who was an active member of the church and who had faith in God. But today, I can say that I did turn my will and I did turn my will and my care over to God, and and I can sense Him guiding me on a daily basis. Step 4, I had to make a searching and fill a small inventory of myself. Put the drink and the drug down, as I can see it today, is I'd say the easy part. But the hard part is, being able to handle all the underlying issues that arise once, I put the drink and the drug down. So I had to be honest with myself, I had to take a piece of paper and, I had to write down what I did wrong, So step number 5, I had to admit to God, to myself, and to another human being, which was my sponsor, the exact nature of my wrongs. Because, in every situation that happened to me in the past, there was some part of responsibility that I had to take and that I didn't want to take. But, through step 5, I had to admit my wrongs. Step number 6, I was entirely ready to have God remove all my defects of character. And, coming to accept the person that I was and forgiving that person was, that character was very difficult. And it's something that I work on. I try to work on a daily basis. Step number 7, I humbly asked Him to remove my shortcomings. And step number 8, I made a list of all the persons that I harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This was a difficult one because there was a lot of resentment that I had towards, society, towards friends, towards family members, towards situations. I had all this poison inside of me, and my solution was to drink to soothe it all away. But with step 8, I had to make amends. And step number 9, I had to make direct amends to such people wherever it was possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And this was a very freeing step because, recognizing my fault in the relationship or, my bad behavior whatsoever freed me from myself. And, step number 10 is to continue to take personal inventory. And when I was, promptly admitted it. This is something that I try to do on a daily basis, to keep my side of the house clean. And it's a very important, part of my daily routine. Step number 11, I sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. Prayer is a very important part of, of my recovery, of my daily devotion. I'll put the gratitude list in there too. I have to be grateful for the small things in life. I have to be grateful that today I opened my eyes. I have to be grateful that I can see, I can smell, I can talk, I can breathe. I'm grateful that, I'm employable. I'm grateful today that I set boundaries with people, family members, friends. I'm grateful for the relationships that I have today because, I had to change as a person when I came into recovery. And And maybe I had to change the site, that, you know, the circle around me. I had to change situations and places. You know, I'm grateful for all the members of CA, and meditation. You know, meditation is a very, very important part too. If I don't do my daily meditation, you know, my day doesn't go the way it should be going. And, you know, in those daily meditations, I ask my higher power to guide my thinking, because, you know, I came in here because of my drinking, but I'm staying because of my thinking. And step number 12 is, you know, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I try to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all my affairs. You know, being of service, first of all, to myself, being of service to the community, being of service to CA, being of service to the people around me. It's a very big part of my recovery too, because when I was in active addiction, I only thought about myself. How can I get the bottle? How can I get the drug to satisfy my need? You know, and today, through working these steps, and through taking a newcomer through the step, that's what's keeping me sober too. You know, because these steps and these principles have been given freely to me, and, you know, in order for me to stay sober and clean, I need to help a newcomer. You know, and, you know, being sober today is living life on life's terms. Everything that I always wanted, you know, is starting to show up in my life today. You know, at the start when I came in, I wanted everything straight away. You know, I wanted to feel comfortable. I wanted to, you know, I wanted to get as quick as possible through the steps. I wanted to, you know, be of service. You know, I wanted everything to happen straight away. But, you know, down the line now, this is a daily reprieve. And it's something that has to be done on a daily basis, because, you know, sobriety is due daily. And if I practice these simple, you know, yet easy steps on a daily basis, my sobriety is, I can live, you know, and be happy in my sobriety. You know, coming to meetings, connecting with other fellows, other addicts is, you know, a very important aspect in recovery too, because I come to see I'm not by, you know, I'm not by myself. There were other people, you know, who through addiction, you know, tried to juggle with their traumas, and now today we have a solution. You know, we have a common solution that, you know, enables us to, you know, stay away from, you know, alcohol and drugs. You know, coming into sobriety, I was able to take care of my physical health. You know, I was able to start loving myself again. I was able to get back into, you know, a physical, you know, a healthy physical shape. Going back to my passions, which were football. And I'm forever grateful for that, because if I would be still drinking and using today, that would not be possible. You know, healthy eating is, you know, a very important part too, because, you know, if my body wants to function at a, you know, at an optimal performance, you know, I need to feed my body the right food, same as I need to feed my mind with the right thoughts, with the right, you know, literature, with the right literature from CA. And, you know, being of service to meetings too is important, you know. So anyone who is, you know, new, anyone who is struggling, sobriety is possible. And, you know, it's near to a miracle for me to be, you know, sober and clean today, because I couldn't go out, you know, I couldn't go maybe 2 or 3 days back in the days without drinking. And I'm grateful because today I'm able to work on the traumas that you know, occurred when I was a child. My solution back then was to drink and drug. Now today, my solution is in these 12 steps. You know, 12 steps and 12 traditions. Recovery is possible. It's something that is due daily. So, you know, if you're new and you're struggling, you know, get yourself a sponsor, come to the meetings, put your ego aside, be willing to listen, be coachable, you know, work 12 steps to the best of your ability. It's not a program of perfection, but it's a program of progress. And recovery is possible. And it's, you know, one day at a time. So I'm more than grateful to be here today. I'm more than grateful to be clean and sober. But I should never forget that it's a daily reprieve. And, you know, these principles, I have to work them on a daily basis to protect my sobriety and to live a happy sobriety. So I'll leave it there, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Martin. I really enjoyed your share. Sane, sober, relatable share as always. That's what I always appreciate whenever you talk in the group. And yeah, thanks for being here today. That was great. Before I come back to your share, I just want to do a bit of due diligence and remind everyone we've got current male and female sponsorship lists. If you're looking for sponsorship to be taken through this 12-step process, you can be liberated from the hideous self-centered delusion of drinking and drugging. Feel free to put your first name and your number beneath wherever you see this broadcast posted, and we will send you privately the sponsorship list on by way of WhatsApp. Also, please check out the other broadcasts on the channel, and we can also add you to WhatsApp groups. On the screen in just a moment, here is a meetings list. A lot of meetings are happening on Zoom all the time. There's probably well over 100 Zoom meetings on right now, where you can hear a healthy message just like Martin's, well, pretty much throughout the day and evening if you choose to. A message of hope and freedom and courage. You know, and getting sober for me, Martin, you know, I had to get involved and take action and not quit. You know, I would cry uncle, you know, I would go and get right. You know, it was self-medication. And really what I was doing, I was quitting my sobriety before I'd recovered, really. You know, and I'm glad to say it's been quite a while since I've drank or drugged. But the consistency is key and continuity. You know, and today I do have a life that could be described as beyond my wildest dreams. And you mentioned some of the features of I think you mentioned sports and football, you know, and I can relate to that. You know, I have a great life today. That is to say, my circumstances, my productivity, my feelings, my health, my self-care, it's on a whole new level, you know, and it's a totally different way of living, you know, and I've been restored to sanity. You know, there are moments in days where that could be called questionable, but largely in the round, you know, sanity has been restored, and it's a great way of life, it truly is. And what would happen to me is, you know, I would have to make a commitment to take responsibility. You know, I would have to face the circumstances, be honest about the consequences, and have acceptance around, not just around substances, but around the feelings, the finances, all areas. You know, I would have to take a good hard look at the reality of the way the lifestyle was, and that was the foundation of getting clean and sober, you know. And yeah, so I appreciated the share. I thought it was very holistic. It reminded me as well, Martin, about, you talked about how your first introduction to powder cocaine was in a nightclub, you know, from a woman in a nightclub. And it's very insidious. And I got the impression that things spiraled. Was it quite a quick spiral into frequent Class A use after that?
Yeah, it was Paul. Using became, went from maybe once every 2 weeks to every week, every weekend, and by the end I couldn't have a drink without using. So yeah, it just went downhill.
Yeah. I mean, my experience was that through that consistency of morning devotions, nightly inventory, regular meetings, service, getting involved, generally being responsible, before you know it, you're putting principles before persons, and you become a recovered man or a recovered woman. It doesn't mean folks won't be emotionally or mentally or financially or maritally recovering for some time. But in terms of that hideous obsession for drink and drugs, that is removed, and we're suddenly, instead of where we were, unable to control the urge for drink and drugs. And they all say one of the tests for an addict is, if when you try to control the quantities, you don't enjoy it, and when you try and enjoy it, you can't control the quantities, and that's true of many of us, and what would happen is the radical honesty around such things would like be the benchmark, would be a big part of the first step, and going from self-will to God's will, and so I see a recovered man, a recovered woman, in terms of not obsessing about acquiring, getting, and therefore not ingesting drink and drugs. And that's how I see the definition today. And through morning devotions, nightly inventory, and of course through around the 12 steps to start with, we build a relationship with God, and that living current relationship, often feebly managed on our part, but by grace developed, gives us permanent sobriety on a day-to-day basis. And when I hear you share as well, I hear you talk a lot about helping others. What's been your experience in terms of taking others through the process? Have you found that vital component?
Well, yes, it is a vital component to our recovery and to my recovery, because helping another addict is helping me, staying clean and sober. And the beauty about it is, when you see these people come into the program and they are, spiritually, financially, emotionally broken, and through working these steps to their best of their ability, they change their lives around. And that is a very gratifying, feeling. Yeah, so working with others is vital. Once you went through the steps, it's a big part of recovery.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is, early on I had to change people, place, and things, and personally I had to stay away physically from people who used and boozed. Now a vital component of staying clean is is talking on a regular basis with people that are often still at it, or struggling to get free of it, or in the process of getting free. And another great irony of the rooms is, it doesn't make sense that addicts can help other addicts get clean. And it's a beautiful process. The steps are on the screen there, and the solution is in the steps and in the literature. So I'd encourage anyone here to read our basic text. Alcoholics Anonymous, often called the Big Book. We also have 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which would be our second book. And we also have all that literature on full free PDF. So if anyone listening to this wants literature, we can send you that electronically as well. The other thing, in my experience, Martin, is patience. Learning patience. I don't know about you, but patience is, you know, I come and go with it. I don't know if it's my lifestyle, the amount of folk I'm involved with, working with, supported, but patience is truly a virtue, isn't it? You know, and in terms of growth and change, you know, you often hear people in meetings talk about emotional sobriety and balance. You know, the more I've stuck around, Martin, I've realised getting through to that nightly inventory without treading on toes is a vital component, and that's how I see recovery today. What do you think?
Yeah, I am by nature someone very, very impatient. You know, as I stated earlier in my share, I wanted everything straight away. Maybe the drink or the drug, you know, or the feeling or whatever. But now, you know, in recovery, I had to learn to become patient with myself, you know, patient with other people, patient with situations. And I think it's part of, you know, growing up too. You know, coming into recovery has enabled me to grow up and show up for myself. Yeah. So patience is something that I need to work on a daily basis, maybe with myself, with, you know, fellows, with work, with my partner, with my friends. So yeah, patience is key in recovery.
Yeah. Well, look, I really appreciate you being here today. I think when it comes to closing comments, what I'd say to anyone listening is do listen to the other broadcasts. As I say, you can come along to Zoom meetings. You definitely don't have to put your camera on. You definitely don't have to talk if you don't want to. In fact, very few people put the camera on, in fact, so never be put off coming to Zoom meetings. You know, they are anonymous and you'd be made very welcome. I'd encourage anyone to reach out for sponsorship if you're new, particularly. You know, and the solution is living in the solution, you know, and learning to segue from solution to solution and be fluid and find ways to practice these principles, you know. So welcome to anyone that's new. We do have a solution. You never need to use again, and recovery is a lifestyle and it's a commitment. So with all that being said, is there anything you'd like to say to our listeners, Martin?
Yes, I'd love to, Paul. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm more than grateful to be here. Yeah, there is a solution out there. You know, through the 12 steps, you know, we can recover and we can live a happy life. So, you know, if you're new or if you're struggling, come to meetings, share back, listen for the similarities, get yourself a sponsor, get yourself a big book, and, you know, work the 12 steps like your life depends on it. And, you know, down the line, with patience, with a lot of work, you know, you can live a happy life without drinking and drugging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On the screen now is a list of meetings. All those meetings are on every single day, all those meetings in green. Well, all of them on there. The UK Samaritans number is there, as is the CA UK helpline. Me and Martin are often found in a group called We Can Recover that's on 3 times every day, all year round, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9:30. That's the login code there at the top in the purple box at the top. So you can definitely come along. You'd be made very, very welcome. You can also go to ca.org or cocaineanonymous.org.uk. So without further ado, appreciate you, Martin. We'll leave it there, family. Thanks again, Martin, for being here today.
Thank you, Paul.
And yeah, stay strong, family. Stay in prayer and keep going to meetings and keep things simple. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye-bye.